Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Records and Public Safety meeting. First thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please, if you would stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioners, item 3 is an adoption of the agenda. Before we adopt the agenda, I am removing items J, K, L, and M. If you'd make that appropriate change on your sheets there. And having done that, I need an approval for the adoption of the agenda with those items removed.
So moved by Nard.
Support Zinner.
It's been moved by Nard, supported by Zinner for the adoption of the agenda. Any addition or corrections? Seeing and hearing none, please vote.
Van Sickle, yes.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Item 4 is the approval of the minutes dated February 7th, 2022. I need a motion to approve.
Support Van
Nard.
Sickle.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kraft, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. Any additions or corrections? Hearing and seeing none, please vote.
Van Sickle, yes.
Excuse me.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 5 is public participation. This is the first opportunity for public participation, and it's for those people who wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any item which is on today's agenda. There will be a time later on at the meeting where there will be a second opportunity for public participation, and that's where the public can speak on anything they wish to that is germane to the meeting. Anybody from the public who wish to speak? Public participation. Anybody wishes to speak? Nope, here comes somebody who wishes to speak.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sandy Wilson. I'm here in support of the E911 surcharge, that resolution that's being submitted. So I'm a lifelong resident of Macomb County and also have the pleasure of working for the county as the Deputy IT Director. So our IT department works hand in hand with the Sheriff's Office. We do that to support their daily 911 operations and their technology projects. So there's a need now for a dedicated IT support team as more technology integrates into the 911 operations and their community outreach expands. The alternate funding sources provide the ability to support the responsive demands of a growing 911 center. As a resident whose family and friends depend on 911 services, and an employee who sees the challenges that we have in support, I respectfully request this board to approve the submitted resolution for E911. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Anybody else out there that wishes to speak on anything on the agenda? Nope.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Lacey. I am the Director of the Southeast Regional Emergency Services Authority. I just want to speak briefly that we're obviously very much in support of the resolution. And in your packet, I believe that there was some items listed that Sarisa is in need of in the upcoming years. I just want to specify that those items are capital expenditures that we've identified in the next 5 years that are not wish list items. They're necessary for us to continue the service that we deliver. And if this resolution were not to be approved, that would cause additional strain on the communities that we serve. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lacey. Anybody else who wishes to speak? Going once, twice? Seeing no other speakers, I'm going to close public participation. I'm going to move on to item number 6, which is department recommendations. It's for item A is 42-1 District Court Magistrate, Circuit Court Judge's appointment with board approval. Actually, I have 2 names in here, Darra Slanec and John Neisel. And we are going to hear from Mr. Neisel. I'm
Good
sorry,
afternoon.
I'm sorry, before you speak, I need a motion to move this to full board, if I may, please.
Make a motion, move full board, Farrington?
Support Zinner.
It's been a motion by Commissioner Farrington to move this full board, supported by Commissioner Zinner. Mr. Nigel, you're up.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon. We have hired a new administrator for the Romeo District Court, the 42-1 District Court, Darra. And since she's already on salary, we thought it would be a good idea to have her as a magistrate as well, so that she can handle some magistrate duties as needed. So the Chief Judge has appointed her, and per statute, we also need the approval and appointment by the Board of Commissioners. So I'm here today asking for that. I'd also like to introduce Darra to everyone, anyone who doesn't know Darra.
Good afternoon. Nice to meet you all. Do you have any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Yes. I don't see any speakers. I don't see any speaker. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Brown, Board Chair, go ahead.
Thank you. You have big shoes to fill out in Romeo Court. You've been a long-serving administrators out there. And what's your background? This is the first time I've met you, actually. And so
We were on the retirement board together, actually.
it's been a long time ago.
It has.
What year ago was that? What year
getting
was
older.
that,
It's a
though?
little
No,
senility.
I'm trying to show you how long I've been with the county, since 2000.
There you go. Well,
I
how
was
many years
with-
ago was that?
I was with juvenile court as a referee for
That's
4
right.
years.
It's
I
a
was
long
with the
time ago.
prosecutor's office for 18 years.
You look younger.
He's
That's a lie.
That's
politician.
why I didn't recognize
That's
you.
a lie.
Yeah. Your kids must have been gone, removed all the stress from your life, and now you look a lot younger.
You're absolutely right.
Exactly.
That's why it was the perfect time to take this position.
For sure.
Trying to dig out of that.
You got it. Well, that's great. Well, we're glad to have you. There's a lot of, that court's always, the court's like the Fort Apache out there. There's a lot of people wanting to attack it, and for various reasons, and try to divert money from it, and you're faced with many challenges. And it's important that, Honorable Judge LeDuc, who's now retired, was a great advocate for that court and everything that went on out there. And so he and I worked closely together. So look forward to working closely. If you got any issues at all, let me know.
Well, thank
We'll be
you.
there to
Thank
be
you.
there to support and defend against those unwarranted attacks against our budget.
I am getting a lot of support from the Circuit Court Administration, the Finance Department. So
And Judge Hackle's also most of the time pleasant to work with. So I'm sure.
yes, and his new court administrator started the same day as I did, and we were already trying to collaborate on some things. So
Okay. Well,
it
very
looks
good.
I'm optimistic.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board, for indulging
You're
me.
welcome, Chair. I see no other speakers, so we have a motion in support. Please vote.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Item B, budget amendment, circuit court programs, coronavirus emergency supplemental funding, grant for $85,600. We have the pleasure of Mr. Nigel again. I need a motion to recommend this to full board, if I may.
So move, Hall.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner Wallace, to move this to full board. Mr. Nigel, you're up again, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we noticed that there was some emergency funding available through the coronavirus. I forget what the acronym stands for, but it was through the state police. I applied for a grant. We got a grant award of about $86,000 to pay for visiting judges to come in to help address cases, keep moving cases as we have availability for those cases to be heard. So at this point, we've received the grant, we've received the funds, and I'm before you today asking for a budget adjustment in order to reflect that.
Thank you. Commissioners, I see no speakers. I have a motion in support. With no speakers, please vote.
Commissioner Sabatini, your vote didn't come through for me.
Sabatini votes yes. It did not come up on my screen.
It didn't. Okay, thank you. Well, motion passes 13-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is item C, which is the contract from Tyler Technologies, Jury Management Service. 3-year total, $320,433. We have our illustrious clerk, Mr. Anthony Forlini here. I need a motion and support to move this to full board, please.
So move, Hall.
Support Nard.
Let's try that one more time. I got a motion by Hall. Support by Farrington. Clerk Forlini, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Chairman and board members. Let me first say I'm very proud of this group in the courthouse, what they've been doing over the last little over a year. We're the only court in Southeast Michigan that's actually been open straight through since a year ago, February. When other courts have shut down and had to go home, our people stuck around. To this day, we have right now 24-hour turnaround in our cases and filings. That was 6 weeks when we took office. So it's been a real great group of people that we're working with. The other thing, if you ever call our courthouse, you never get voicemail. You get a person every time. We have in front of you, this is a part of what we do, and this is the jury room. This software that we've had since, well, Kathy Smith says since she can remember, and that's a long time. She's been around forever. It's Courthouse Technologies. Recently, they were bought out by Tyler Technologies, which they seem to have all our software. And they got bought out, and their contract just expired this past December. We got this information in December, so we're saying, hang on, I wanted to make sure, what are we doing? Who else is out there? Where can we get bids from? I don't want to just automatically go forward. And Matt here from the jury room is our filing operations person. He did some of the research and some of the background to let you know where we're at with this and why we're here today. So I'm going to let Matt take it from here and probably answer any questions you might have.
This vendor is very prominent in the state of Michigan. As you can see, I think from your handout, other similarly situated counties use this vendor as well. It's hard to go by what smaller counties might do. They might not be able to accommodate our needs as a bigger county. This software provider has done everything we've asked them to do over the last so many years. We have a good relationship with everyone there. And the State Court Administrative Office, they were one of the vendors who were highly regarded as one that might be a statewide vendor. So in order to switch vendors would mean that we might lose a vendor that the state ends up choosing. Does anyone have any questions for me or Tony beyond that?
Thank you. Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. This is more of a question probably for the board in general, but this is a technology and IT item. Did IT work with you guys at all on this, or did you just move forward in this with your department?
Well, we just kind of moved forward, I guess. IT, we really didn't think, at least I didn't really think about them. They know of this vendor. They know of our use with this vendor. They've often been involved with IT issues regarding this vendor. Oftentimes, we'll have our IT department contact their IT department to work on things. So I didn't know that, that was an issue.
No, I'm more of a question, just in consistency across all departments, if IT is handling all these contracts or they're being handled individually by departments. In the past, apparently, this hasn't been handled by IT at all, so I was just curious.
Yeah, and that's in contrast. We saw in the election department that our IT department wasn't involved, which I thought was kind of crazy because nobody in our election department really knows much about IT. So we changed all that around. IT is the one in our election department doing all that. This is, I think, most of this technology, I'm not sure that it's actually here. It's actually elsewhere. And they're a vendor that handles getting the jurors to us. And
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I see no other speakers, so if you would, we have a motion and a support, so please vote.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Item D is a budget amendment. I'd like a budget amendment for emergency management and communication, fiscal year 2020 Homeland Security Grant Program, $4,508,352. Brandon Lewis is the director. I'd like items D and E, if I may get a motion for both, please.
So moved by Nard.
Support Van Sickle.
Got a motion by Commissioner Nard, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle, and we have Mr. Lewis on board.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Every year, the state of Michigan awards grant funding from the FEMA Homeland Security Grant Program. That funding is awarded to regions, and those regions are required to work together on priority Homeland Security activities because, as we know, emergencies don't stop at jurisdictional borders. In addition to Macomb County, our region consists of the city of Detroit and Monroe, Oakland, St. Clair, Washtenaw, and Wayne counties. Each region is required to have a single fiduciary entity to manage the funds on its behalf. Macomb County has been our region's fiduciary since 2012. As the fiduciary, we manage the funds for all 7 partners, seek reimbursement from the state, and process reimbursements through to all of those partners. So today I have before you 2 items to facilitate that process. I have the budget amendment adding the amount of the grant award to our Fund 350, the Homeland Security Grant Fund. And I also have the approval of an interlocal agreement that will be entered into between the county and all 6 of the other partners to facilitate the transfer of funds and the other business that we need to do together to facilitate this grant program.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Seeing and hearing none, please vote. Oh, you want to go on that? I'm sorry, let's go to the second item. We have 2 items on there.
Chair, you have 2 speakers.
You have 2 people.
Oh, somebody jumped in. Okay, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. What will the money be spent on?
So the money.
Or do you know yet? Maybe
the
you
money.
don't know
Well, in general terms, I can tell you what we regularly spend the money on, and it'll give you an idea of what that grant program goes to support. We support it. We spend it in support of what we call whole community partners across the community. So we work in collaboration with police, fire, EMS, public safety, communication, public health, many others to support special response teams, development of emergency plans, policies, and procedures specifically related to terrorism, conducting training to respond to acts of terrorism, putting on exercises to respond to acts of terrorism, and purchasing the equipment necessary to do so.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Song?
Thank you, Chair. How is this grant money distributed? Is it by population?
It's distributed, so it's broken up in a few different ways. 25% of it is taken right off the top, and we are instructed as a region to use it collectively to address collective priorities. After that, the remaining percentage is broken up amongst the 7 partners based on a risk and vulnerability formula that the state police has established. It's based on population density, critical infrastructure facilities, and perceived terrorism risk as established by experts such as the FBI and local fusion centers. From that, we, Macomb County, our share is roughly 15% of that remaining 75.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. So the monies you mentioned about transferring, that's all funds that you're transferring to the other partners.
That's correct, yes.
You're not collecting anything.
No, well, what we'll do is we will receive reimbursement from the state, and then we will pass it through to those other partners.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome, Commissioner. Any other speakers? Any other commissioners? Seeing and hearing none, please vote.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Item F and G I'd like together, if I may. Item F is budget amendment from the Sheriff's Office, Law Enforcement Services, Township of Washington, $313,400. The other one is an agreement amendment, the Sheriff's Office, Law Enforcement Services, Township of Washington, 3-year total, $1,003,744. I need a motion and approval to send this to full board.
So moved by
Hall.
Nard.
We'll try one more time, if I may. Moved by Hall. Supported by NAR. We have Commander Abro here. You can speak to both of them if you would, please.
All right, good evening. The Township of Washington has decided to add 2 additional deputy positions to the township, one being a motor carrier officer, the second being a traffic enforcement officer. They have come into agreement that they wish the position to start as of April 1st. We're asking your permission to add 2 positions and 2 vehicles to the township.
Thank you, Commander. Is Stephen, you here? Schmiegel is our finance director. Where's this money coming from, Mr. Schmiegel? Are we getting it back?
Money will come from the township.
From me.
Are we getting it back? Go ahead.
Yeah, right, so you have the purchase of the vehicles, the budget amendment for the current year, and the contract amendment, all related to these 2 positions and 2 vehicles. So we'll get additional revenue from the township to pay for the 2 officers, and we will get the reimbursement for the vehicles over 2 years from the township. So we basically buy the vehicles up front, and then they reimburse them. We spread that cost over the life of the contract.
Okay. I have some commissioners here with some questions. I have Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commander. I don't need you, Steve, thanks. At one time, I thought the MSP had assumed the responsibilities for motor carriers in almost the state, if not all of Macomb County. Is that changing?
You know, I couldn't answer for the state police, but I can tell you in our patrol jurisdictions of the contracts that we have, Lennox Township has just approved a motor carrier. We have now Washington asking for that permission, and we might have discussions with Harrison Township here shortly. But it is a safety issue, right? We're here for education, to educate, you know, the drivers, to make sure we're protecting our roadways. So you'll see a lot of communities asking for the motor carrier position for those reasons.
Thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify something. This is prorated for this year, correct? That's why it's $1 million contract, but the first year is only $279. It's because January, February, and March have taken place.
Correct. It should be prorated for 9 months.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We lost another commissioner. Any other commissioners wish to speak on this? Oop. You sign in late. Sometimes I won't recognize you.
I got to be quick with you, Commissioner Romano.
Go ahead, Chair. You're
You don't
up.
have any grass growing to your feet.
Go ahead.
Challenging me. Thank you. The motor carrier, that is a new wrinkle that's, the motor carriers are a new wrinkle to the coverage area out in the north end, and it's definitely necessary. We've got gravel trains crossing all over my township, my community. Got gravel pits out there and a lot of heavy vehicles. Is that the main focus of this unit? Do they have scales? How's that going to work?
Yeah, they do have scales. They do have proper equipment to make sure that trucks are carrying the appropriate weight load. But they're also for traffic enforcement as well. It's also for education. And there's a whole list of reasons for enforcement when it comes to motor vehicle code, you know, with log books and, you know, how the drivers are traveling through our community. You'll see that the bypass is a large thoroughway, and you'll see a lot of out-of-state vehicles that come through the township.
Where will explain how the money, if you ticket a truck or a person driving a car, where does that money go?
You know, I believe the money goes to your local court there, and how it's distributed, that'd be something for the court to answer.
But it helps fund the local court. They were just here earlier. Okay. Yeah, and residents fund it, and the township's been long supportive of the local residents of paying their fair share for law enforcement out there, and it's a good thing, and it's needed. Safe communities are generally better communities, so it's all good. So thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at the amendment here, and it says the school resource officer, is that part-time?
The school resource officer was
One
already
half.
approved by the last contract that took place as of January 1st. The township, going back to that, and I believe it was approved back in November, going back to that, the township pays for 50% of that wage, and then the school district pays for the other 50%.
Okay, that's why it's one half then.
Correct.
So there's only one officer?
There's one school liaison assigned to Romeo, correct?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none, please vote.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Commissioners, I'd like to take H and I together, if I may. 6H is purchase signature Ford, 2022 Ford Police Interceptors vehicles for $96,608. And the other one, I, is a purchase signature Ford, 4 Ford Explorers for a total of $124,672. And I need a motion and support to move this to full board.
Moved by Kleinfeld.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kleinfeld, supported by Commissioner Zinner. Commander, you're up again.
Thank you. The 2 Ford Interceptors that you see on the first lineup will be the purchase for the Washington Township vehicles. Those will be needed to have vehicles for the deputies that we've just added, the traffic enforcement officer and the motor carrier. The second agenda item that you'll see is 4 Ford Explorers are replacing 4 2013 Dodge Avengers that will have well over 100,000 miles on them here this year.
Thank you, Commander. We have some commissioners with some questions, if I may. Commissioner Song?
Thank you, Chair. Are any of these vehicles hybrids or electrical? Is that something that you guys looked into?
They are not. We actually have a hybrid vehicle that is coming into the city of Mount Clemens, and we are going to test that vehicle, but these specific vehicles are not hybrids.
I know you guys came to us previously last year with an electrical vehicle, and as you know, well aware, the rise in gas
Sure.
prices will really affect your operations moving forward. So I'd really like to see you guys considering electrical hybrid vehicles as soon as possible.
Absolutely. We do go to the Michigan State Police testing in Chelsea, Michigan, and we do explore all vehicles that are tested for our fleets.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Matusek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The delivery on these vehicles, there was some wording in there that says we'll do our best. We're not sure when they're
Right.
coming.
Well, with everything that's going on, I mean, it's unknown. I mean, Ford today just came out with some delays in chips, and not sure if there's some vehicles might have air conditioning or heat. So that's always a challenge, and it's a challenge for the rest of our fleet as well. Some of the vans and things that we are looking for to purchase. So there's just no telling when the deliveries will take place.
All right. And the purchase of the 2 are clearly for the township addition we just made. The purchase for the 4, I'm assuming, are part of our regular fleet turnover, replacing older vehicles.
Correct.
Do you have any idea how many vehicles you anticipate this year replacing?
This should be the 4 administrative vehicles that we see. I believe in the next meeting you'll see some of our fleet as far as our patrol units that are going to be replaced, and that's come up in the next meeting. I believe some of the items were removed today from the agenda, but that should be your next meeting.
All right, but any idea totally how many? Do we have like a schedule we replace vehicles on?
We do. We do a 5-year schedule of all of our fleet, so we
Okay.
kind of look in advance of what we're looking at, where the mileage is getting at as far as some of these vehicles. We do know that some of our administrative vehicles take about 8 to 10 years within our fleet. So like the 4 we're replacing now, they're from 2013. And I don't even think they make that model anymore, so
Right.
they're pretty old.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I see no other speakers. Nobody's waving their hands. Oh, another one coming late. Mr. Farrington, Commissioner.
I did that just on
You
purpose.
did it on purpose.
Thank you for coming in. The question that Commissioner Matusek got me thinking on the Washington Township one, that it's only a 2-year contract. Let's say it's not agreed to beyond the 2 years. Now we have 2 extra vehicles that have 6 to 8 more years left on their usefulness. How does that work?
Well, the fleet, as far as, let me break this. So there's administrative vehicles for our detectives and staff and undercover units. Those would be more of our administrative vehicles. The patrol fleet, which I can give you an example. We turn over those cars probably once a year. For example, I think car 110 puts about 100,000 miles on it yearly. So we would, if they backed out within their 90 days, we would actually take those cars and put them right back into the fleet where they need to go, and the township has paid for them.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Oh, just for new commissioners, we didn't used to see these at all. And, you know, coming from a municipality, I was like, where's all the police cars? Because I know we're purchasing them. So after a little bit of a debate over what a contract is and whether we sign them, we get to see all these. So I'm really happy about that. And it's nice to know what we're taking care of too. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else want to jump in late? Come in now. Seeing and hearing none, I have a motion for H and I. Please vote. Thank you, Commander.
Thank you.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Item J is before I get into the resolution, I see that we have some esteemed people out here. If I may, if you gentlemen don't mind, and I see a lot of uniforms with badges, can I find out what municipalities we have here today? You can give a shout out down the line any way you want to do it. Don't be bashful.
Chief Monroe from the Roseville Police Department.
Thank you.
James Piper with the St. Clair Shores Fire Department and representing the County Chiefs Association.
Thank you.
Chris Crotchy, Fire Chief, Armada Township.
Thank you.
Kevin Edmond, Chief, Sterling Heights.
Thank you. I'm sorry, was that Kevin Edmond from Sterling Heights?
Yes.
I just want to give another shout out for Sterling. Oh, I'm from Sterling Heights. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Brian Bassett, Chesterfield Township Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just to jump in, that's our new Public Safety Director in Chesterfield.
Did I get you all? I think I got them all. All right, let's get to item 6 was the resolution to authorize a monthly 911 surcharge of 42 cents per month per device. And I think I need a motion and support to move this to full board, please.
Mr. Chair, before we take a vote on moving it to full board, I would like to propose that we change the wordage in the resolution to indicate a resolution to authorize a monthly E911 surcharge of 42 cents per month per device with a 2-year sunset clause ending 2024, and then have it placed on the ballot for the citizens to vote on.
Commissioners understand what Commissioner Hall is suggesting. Do I have support?
I support it.
I'm sorry, did you support?
Song, support.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Song supported that. Okay. So again, I need, that was a motion and support, an amendment to the motion itself. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, quick point of order.
Sure.
The dollar amount we are approving is 42 cents. I was under the impression that if it's 43 or more, then it goes to the ballot. Vicky, can I get some, or can somebody give me some clarification on that? I don't want to say change it to 42 cents and keep it that way if we can't technically put it on a ballot for less than 43.
I can clarify that for you.
Thank you.
You can put any amount on the ballot. Regardless, we would need a signed resolution from the board indicating that we did want to move forward with a countywide ballot proposal. It can be any amount. However, it's just not common because 42 cents can be passed without. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
we
So
know
I have
you're
a-
not Vicky, but who are you?
Yeah. I'm Angela Elsey, Communications Administrator for the Sheriff's Office 911 Center.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have a motion and amendment to the motion and support to move it to full board, and I have Ms. Elsie here in front of us.
Yes. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having us here today. Like I said, I'm Angela Elsey with the Sheriff's Office 911 Center. Although I am a county employee, I am here in front of you today with a request that would benefit all 9 public safety answering points in the county, otherwise known as PSAPs, asking you to consider passing a resolution in support of implementing a local 911 surcharge in the amount of 42 cents per device per month. While I will highlight the specific needs of the county's contact center, there are 8 other PSAPs in this county that have been consulted as a part of this process. I will do my best to highlight not only context needs, but all of our centers collectively. Public Act 32 of 1986, as amended, allows for the collection of a local E911 surcharge to assist with providing staff, training, and technology in order to provide emergency 911 services within designated PSAPs. A county board may approve up to 42-cent surcharge via resolution. Anything above 42 cents and up to the allowable maximum of $3 must go before the voters. Subject matter experts, both at the local and county level, have studied this mechanism over the last few years in relation to our current dispatch center needs, services, and operations, as well as future needs, and have concluded that this is a viable option to assist with providing the much-needed resources that our 911 services and public safety demand. Based on our findings, we are recommending a surcharge of 42 cents per month per device. We are the only county within the state of Michigan that does not have a dedicated source of funding for 911 services, either through this mechanism or a millage, or in some cases both. Our dispatch centers and personnel continue to be tasked with more duties and responsibilities, escalating cost, and decreasing funding sources and budgets. The revenue from this surcharge is needed not only to maintain basic services, but also provide us with means for technology enhancements and that exist today as well into the future. Next generation 911 planning is inclusive of the ability to not only receive but also send text messages, videos, and live stream footage from public safety to our dispatch centers and back out to first responders. In addition to this specific emerging technology, we need to continue to improve our ability to locate callers, ensure interface systems, and increase reliability, all in an effort to provide efficient, effective, and quick responses. Improvements that we make in equipment, technology, and training will have an immediate effect and impact on the health and safety of our community. As a brief history note, we did come before the Board of Commissioners in 2019 as well as 2020 with this same request. The need to secure this funding mechanism is greater than in previous years, especially as we approach our migration to the next generation 911 network. In December of 2021, the board unanimously approved the county's request to enter into an agreement with a consultant to lead our county's 9 PSAPs in the transition from our existing legacy network, the copper infrastructure, to a next generation fiber optic based telecommunications network. As we move forward in this migration project, costs to the local PSAPs will be identified, some of which already have, and each PSAP will be responsible to determine their own local funding source. Not all PSAPs have a funding mechanism available for these necessary upgrades. While the network costs, including implementation, maintenance, and line conversion, are funded by the state, like mentioned, any equipment and technology upgrades to be compatible are the PSAP's responsibility. Without funding for technology upgrades, some PSAPs will not be able to take advantage of the enhanced emerging and life-saving technologies available, also hindering the interoperability between our centers. Implementing a local surcharge will secure a dedicated funding mechanism for such upgrades. Some examples of what you can expect to see implemented in Macomb County's 9 PSAPs are interconnection to telematics, such as OnStar, enhanced school security integration, additional communications such as two-way text, translation services, ability to receive and process MMS, which is photo and video, enhanced location information with what's called location-based routing, data that even when we complete our next generation 911 migration won't matter if we don't have the equipment to be able to receive and process that information. CAD to CAD connectivity. CAD is computer-aided dispatch, the software system that the dispatch centers use to enter information from the callers and send that back out to the responders. CAD to CAD connectivity would mean that we're sharing real-time information with our surrounding centers, which would cut down on response time, cut down on the amount of transfer time in between us, and ensure that we are sharing the full details of the information provided to us, regardless if it's on a jurisdictional border or if it requires a multi-jurisdictional response. All of this is only available to us in a fully deployed next-generation 911 environment, but all of these come with a cost. If I can direct your attention, if you have your packet in front of you, to page 2, you'll find a table labeled Estimated Revenue for Macomb County PSAPs with a local 42-cent surcharge. As of July of 2021, Macomb County had a reported population of 885,405 residents. Assuming 75% of our residents own at least one device, this would generate approximately $3.3 million annually for E911 in Macomb. You'll then see a breakdown for how that revenue would be distributed by each PSAP. That's a significant amount of money for each dispatch center, which they're not receiving now. On page 3 of your packet, there's a document labeled Local Surcharge Funding Mechanism Outline for PSAP expenses and upgrades. So we surveyed all the PSAPs and said specifically what would you spend this money on in the short term, in the immediate, in the long term, and in alignment with the allowable and disallowable expenses of 911 surcharge funds. 8 of the county's 9 PSAPs were able to identify what they would initially intend to use this for. For the Sheriff's Office, as you heard Deputy Director Sandy Wilson speak earlier about the need for a dedicated IT specialist for dispatch, we would absolutely implement that position. And that would also support fire service and law enforcement personnel since they're interconnected with us. A variety of capital expenses, including necessary upgrades for maintenance and equipment and call handling equipment, replacement of office chairs, which may seem nominal, but it's quite a large and frequent expense. Our chairs are sat in 24 hours a day, and we have 54 dispatchers on staff, so that can be quite a large expense for us. Replacement of 32 PCs, 20 in Comtech and 12 in our backup center, which is in Warren. Training and memberships not covered by state 911 training funds. We do receive specific training funds, however, there is hundreds of training courses available to 911 dispatchers. We are required by the state of Michigan to complete 40 hours of training in your first year of employment, 40 hours of training in your second year of employment, and 24 hours of training for every 2 years after that. Each class is approximately $200 per attendee. Beyond that, there is a large movement on mental health and wellness for 911 dispatchers, especially as we start to see the implementation of photo and video and live stream. And there are many, many courses available to us now. We cannot take advantage of these for funding is one reason why. And secondly, because we don't necessarily have the staff in efforts to be able to send people out. We still have to staff the center. So, and you know, I can say that for all 9 centers in Macomb County, that we are consistently passing up available courses that would be a benefit to all of us. In addition, we will need to upgrade our radio consoles within the next 5 years. There are other emerging technology costs, such as CAD-to-CAD connectivity, which I briefly spoke of. We are already in conversations with Chesterfield Dispatch and MedStar Ambulance in sharing that data. Sarisa Dispatch has outdated equipment that requires replacement, such as their radio and telephone recorder, and their radios themselves are at end of life. They are also in need of funding to upgrade heavy-duty office furniture and essential 911 workstations, as well as invest in reoccurring capital improvements, as you spoke, or as you heard Director Lisi speak about. Romeo Dispatch is working with radios that are 17 years old, and they need an upgrade. Their phone system has also already been identified as one that is in need of an upgrade to be compatible with the next generation 911 network. Richmond PD, much the same as Romeo, they're working with outdated radios and require other hardware and software upgrades for next generation 911 compatibility. Utica will fund costs of additional personnel and training and a dedicated funding source for vendor and maintenance agreements. Warren Dispatch will add 3 to 4 dispatch positions in the short term. Chesterfield PD is working with outdated radios and would be able to upgrade. They'd be able to explore other new technologies available for public safety dispatchers and have a revenue to fund the implementation of those. Ongoing training and equipment costs are also identified by Chesterfield as expenses in need of revenue. And Centerline requires a phone system upgrade for next generation 911 compatibility. In previous year's request, there was concern for possibility of misusing these funds. I want to make it clear that fee diversion is not allowed, and there is an annual reporting process as well as a requirement for an independent audit of the 911 accounts that I, as the county coordinator, am required to report all revenues and expenditures on a yearly basis to the state of Michigan. If the reports consistently show that we are collecting more surcharge than what we need for our operations and our projects, then we would be required by the state of Michigan to reevaluate our surcharge and possibly reduce that rate. I've included a list of allowable and disallowable expenses in your packet as related to the state and local surcharge collections. That is on pages 22 and 23. I hope that you will find satisfaction in knowing that Macomb will not be collecting more than what it should for 911, and that I and the state would be keeping an eye on that on the taxpayers' behalf. It is written into Public Act 32 that any local surcharge addressed may not exceed the amount necessary and reasonable to implement, maintain, and operate the 911 system in the county. I am required to complete a very detailed report of all of these revenues and expenditures on behalf of all 9 of our dispatch centers every year and provide that information to the state no later than May 15th. That information is used to provide the Michigan legislature with the status of 911 and the sources of 911 funding. Under the Emergency Services 911 Enabling Act, which begins on page 24 of your packet, 911 is established at the county level by implementing a county 911 plan, which falls under the purview of the Board of Commissioners. Therefore, a local surcharge is not an option for individual PSAPs to seek on their own. So Sarisa couldn't come up here and ask for this. It has to be a county initiative, all 9 of us, or none. So in accordance with the plan, we must move forward as a county. It is also the responsibility of the counties to be able to fund their own 911 services operations locally. And according to 911 law, it is also the county's responsibility to fund the network if necessary. Currently, network costs are funded by the state of Michigan through a state surcharge and technical fee. However, that funding is only secured through 2027. If there is no money to fund the network, there is no more state distribution to the PSAPs. We could potentially be faced with funding a 911 network and losing all of our state distribution. We must secure additional funding source as our state funds are not always guaranteed. The revenue we receive from the state is also dependent on what's remitted for the state surcharges, and those numbers can fluctuate depending on how much the state has collected. For example, the prepaid 911 fees brought in roughly $15 million less in 2019 through 2021. So that had a direct impact on our county 911 centers. We also saw a gradual decrease in our revenue. It's important that I note again, 82 of Michigan's 83 counties have a dedicated 911 millage or local surcharge. On pages 16 and 17 of your packet, there is a list of Michigan's 911 county surcharge as compiled by the Michigan Public Service Commission. You will see that Macomb County is one of 11 counties that does not collect a local surcharge. However, 10 of those 11 have a millage. Macomb County is not unique in its needs, but we are unique in not having a proper fund mechanism to support our PSAPs. On page 18, I've identified some of the Southeast Michigan surcharge collection rates as comparables in the bottom table. I have listed 3 other large counties in our state as well as comparables. Kalamazoo County being one, they have a 42-cent surcharge that has passed since their inception unanimously with a resolution from the board. And they also have a millage, and they're half our population size. On page 19, I've also listed all counties at the maximum allowable collection of $3 and other top collectors. All of these counties have taken action to secure revenue stream for their PSAPs related to improvements, staffing, equipment, training, and technology, either through resolution or countywide ballot proposal. It is our hope that the board supports this initiative just the same, either through resolution today or further discussion if needed. Beginning on page 6, you'll see many letters of support from our public safety partners and community leaders, many of them here today. Our law enforcement, EMS, and fire service partners rely on us in 911 to provide them with detailed, accurate information in an efficient amount of time. None of us can do our jobs without the other. So the better we can do our job, the more integrated we are, the more technology we have, the quicker they can respond and the more information they can have initially. We're a close-knit public safety community in this county, and the support from our partners in these other essential fields speaks loudly because we advocate for one another. If the board approves our request and signs a resolution, The local surcharge collection would begin on July 1st, 2022. The annual collection period is July 1st through June 30th of the previous year, or the following year, I'm sorry. We are required by Public Act 32 to notify the State 911 Committee no later than May 15th of each year to any change in our county surcharge collection. So although there was a change made to the resolution today, if that hadn't been made, the board could request that prior to May 15th of 2023, we revisit whether a local surcharge collection should continue. That can still happen, or a sunset date as proposed is placed on the resolution, and we honor that as well. But either way, the only way that we would stop collecting is a signed resolution from the Board of Commissioners indicating Macomb County no longer wishes to collect. As long as that was remitted to the state prior to May 15th of that year, the collection would stop. With Macomb County PSAPs increasing operational costs, putting an end date to the collection is not preferred, but it is an option that you have. Thank you for your time, and I will take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Elsey. A complete and detailed report, no question about that. We have 13 commissioners with no, we only have 2 commissioners with questions. Sorry. Commissioner Kleinfeld, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would have liked to have had the opportunity to vote on administration's recommendation and then have the other part be an amendment to it so that it's a vote that stands on its own, because they're 2 totally different things. And so now, while I don't agree with the change, I either vote against the whole thing. Usually when we're changing it, it's done in the form of an amendment. But anyway, here's my concern about the sunset clause. The need to update technology does not ever go away. And for long-term planning, I want to ask are you ever in a situation where you need to save money up for a significantly larger project?
Yes.
And you can't do that if you have a sunset. And if it's 2 years, that would be next year we would already be having to go to the voters. But you can't plan larger projects out with these fees at this point, correct?
Correct.
And we're already behind everybody else because everybody else in Michigan has it. And do you know of any others in Michigan? And there's a lot that have the 47. Do you know of any of them that put that before the voters instead of voting on it?
There have been many that have gone before the voters,
Have
but
there?
majority of that was for an increase. While I don't have...
I did see there are a lot getting a lot more than that.
Correct.
I just meant the bare minimum. I'm just concerned that we can't rely on the future if we don't know we're going to get it.
Correct.
And the fact that every county in the state has done it is an indication to me that everybody seems to recognize this as a necessity. And if we put it before the voters and it fails, then again, we're going to be the one with the antiquated 911 system. So I don't know if the board would consider allowing to split it and allow us to vote on the amendment separately or not. I am in favor of the original recommendation by administration. If we can't split it, I'm not going to vote against giving you something, but I don't like the lack of reliability, and I don't think everybody else is doing this. Thank you.
We'll say that the board can have a review every year because it is required for me to remit something signed by the board to the state annually to say, yes, we are collecting and we intend to keep collecting, or no, we are not. So every single year, there's always the opportunity still for the Board of Commissioners to decline to keep
So
collecting.
if we're doing a 2-year, are you still going to come back next year and make the request then?
That is, well, what we would do is just submit the resolution really
Okay.
and request that you
And
sign
then is
it.
Steve still here?
He was trying to leave. I
Boy,
seen
you
him.
were well
He
hidden.
was headed towards the door.
Now, just for the record, because she said she sends it a detailed report to the state, and we had somebody else say they sent a detailed report into the state. These monies will go through our financial systems.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Just a sidebar to that. these other counties that approved this, and they went into, what did they say that on Star Trek, from here to infinity for the 911 surcharge, some of it went before the voters, the ones that approved it. We're making it here as commissioners for infinity, whereas I'm saying, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Hall came up with that sunset clause that says we as commissioners would approve it now, and I don't want to reiterate it again, but let the voters decide if they want it to continue continuously after the sunset clause. So I think that sunset clause puts a cap on what we as commissioners should be able to do and what we should allow our voters to do, our residents to do, if they want to continue with it. Just wanted to make that comment.
And Chair,
We
I
have other
think
commissioners.
absolutely you should be able to vote on that. What the problem is it isn't made it as an amendment, so I don't get the opportunity to vote on the original
So
presentation.
you want two separate, you want the original,
like
then you
it
want the
to-
amendment second.
The motion should have been the original and then an amendment made. That hasn't happened, so either the motion maker would have to agree to it or the board would have to agree to separate them.
Thank
And
you,
if the
Commissioner.
board doesn't have that appetite, they don't have the appetite.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall.
I can answer that question. I have no appetite to separate the two. And the reason for that is, and by the way, that was a very good presentation on your part. We had that same agenda item on one of our agendas 2 years ago, exactly as it was worded, and it went down. This is an opportunity to give the commissioners to monitor, as you're going to report, what's being spent. It's an opportunity, and I believe Steve has established an E911 budgetary item in our budget for us to look at how things are being spent. You've already indicated we're the only county that has not approved this. You said the same thing 2 years ago, and it went down. So I'm not willing to separate these two things, and for those reasons, we ask every time somebody makes a presentation to us on expending funds, explain to us the value and the usage. And we take their word for it. In this particular case, we not only have you explaining it, all those guys in brown behind you support you, including the 4 stars and the 2 stars and that whole group back there. And not only them, but all the guys in white from police, fire, and EMS. So when we're asking the end user, do they think this is the right thing to do? The message is obviously sitting in front of us. So congratulations to what you've presented to us. We had a history here that was very in-depth, and my fear was, had we put the same agenda item up, we would have gotten the same result. This is about health and safety of our constituents. You're telling us the guys that do, the guys and gals, I don't want to be misspoken here, that are doing the job, this is a critical need. This saves lives. This is what could make us unique. The Contact Center, for those that haven't been through it, is one of the most advanced centers, if not in the state of Michigan, in the whole country. All you're trying to do is keep it that way. And that's what this request is. Thank you, Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have Commissioner Farrington next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Angela, welcome. I think you said in your presentation, what year did the legislation come into place to allow the option of funding the 911?
Well, so this is allowable under Public Act 32 of 1986, but it was Public Act 51 of 2018 that allowed for.
So just in the last, so prior to 2018, no one could add the 42-cent surcharge? It was 1986.
In 1986 is the Public Act for Emergency Services Enabling Act, but it was Public Act 51 of 2018 that made changes to the collection.
Okay, so it was 1986,
But,
so
yeah.
they allowed the option.
Correct, yeah.
Excuse me, I guess I'm a little taken back by a couple of the comments. On one hand, we've been told many times, and I agree, that our ComTech is fantastic, our 911 services are phenomenal. But yet then I hear that we'd be behind if we add more revenue from our constituents' pockets, if we don't do that. So I don't understand how something that's been going on for 35 years of not taxing the residents more would somehow ruin something that's already world-class by everyone's regard. And no one wants to go against public safety. But at the same point, I've been told over and over how ComTech and our 911 are world-class. So I feel if we don't go forward, we're not losing out on anything because we've been doing this since 1986 or some point forward when 911 came around. And the strategy of the 2-year sunset, that was a classic Lansing strategy, so I know where Commissioner Hall is coming from, because once you go 2 years, then you put it on the ballot, you go, we're not raising taxes. All we're doing is continuing what you're already paying for. I'm not falling for that, personally. On the other hand, 42 cents is not that big of a number. So I'm going back and forth. My main question was the 1986, because I do believe ComTech is excellent. If I do go forward with a yes, it's just to move it to full board. I'm not so sure I'm going to do that, but just to let you know. So thank you very much.
Commissioners, too, if I could say,
Please.
In comment to that, so this isn't specific to ComTech, right? So we are very blessed at ComTech with a lot of what we have. However, there are 8 other dispatch centers in this county. And our state distribution money that we receive, that's only good through 2027 because there's a sunset date on that money in Public Act 32, is some of these communities are barely receiving anything. So, because it's based on population served is how we distribute it. So, for example, the Village of Romeo is only getting a little over $5,000 for their dispatch center annually. When the cost of one dispatch course is $200 to $300, they're going to run out of money from that specific revenue in a month or two. Or they're going to be forced to really be careful on what they spend it on or not have the...
No, and I appreciate that clarification. I guess one of the other things, though, is in a period where the federal government has bequeathed upon the state, the counties, and the local government millions of dollars that sometimes we don't even know how to spend. Why we're not diverting some of that to this important subject, I do not know. And perhaps people that are making these decisions before our approval need to focus that money this direction instead. So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have Commissioner Sabatini, please.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Angela. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a couple of questions for Steve first, and then some follow-up for you in
Mr.
regards
Schmegel.
to... Steve never sits right by the door. Steve, I know in this budget cycle, the 911 fund was taken out of the actual budget and it was created its own budget, correct?
Yeah, it's in the budget for the first time in 2022.
Okay. In one of the presentation slides, I saw that there is a $12.6 million general fund basic, let's say, contribution to this fund in order to keep it, or what we've been contributing to keep the 911 fund going, correct?
I think I know what you're referring to.
Yeah.
In the packet?
Yes,
You saw that?
in the
Yeah,
packet.
so that was a line item from the annual report to the legislature that the
Okay.
State 911 Committee is required to report. That is what we've reported as a county, based on all 9 PSAPs, to the State 911 office when we audit those revenues and expenditures from the State 911 fund. So what's that saying is collectively for all 9 dispatch centers in Macomb County, there was about $12.6 million from general funds contributing to.
So the general fund
Our
was subsidizing keeping the 911 system going?
Correct.
Okay.
But what we're saying is we don't want to supplant that money because we've identified a need for all of these additional expenses, so we need additional revenue.
So you're saying to go back to the taxpayers for that additional revenue, rather than subsidizing it through our general fund?
Correct.
Okay. Steve, in regards to that 911 fund, I don't have it in front of me. How much money's in that fund right now, and how long will it last? If this wasn't to move forward and we were to use that fund as is?
There's approximately $3 million in the fund balance at the end of 2021, unaudited at this point. We reflected in the budget a drawdown of about $300,000 to $400,000 a year, but that does not include any sort of expense for capital upgrades. So that could be gone relatively quickly. It's mostly just for personnel and some.
The actual operations.
Yeah, the actual operations. There's no big capital numbers in that 3-year forecast.
In regards to the dispatch centers, all the municipalities that are listed here, do they all have their own dispatch centers, or do they contract with Macomb County for our dispatch?
So there are 9 dispatch centers total. So for example, the city of Sterling Heights contracts with Macomb County Sheriff's Office for dispatch services, same as Clinton Township and many fire departments. Fraser, Roseville, East Point, and St. Clair Shores contract with CESF for 1 dispatch center. So beyond that, New Baltimore contracts with Chesterfield Township.
So some of these dispatch centers, then I saw what they're what they're in need of. That's because they have their own dispatch centers, and they're maintaining their own dispatch centers.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Highlight the center specifically, not each municipality.
Okay. Last question I have in regards to Commissioner Hawes' comment relative to putting this on the ballot in a future date. Is it possible for the local municipalities to put this on their ballot right now? Or does this
No.
have to go through the county?
It has to be a county ballot proposal. Mhm.
Okay. And in regards to that, so you said 2027, the funding will end with the state.
It could.
So if that is the case, and this does come up, this is approved, in 2 years, it's then put on the ballot at that point, wouldn't it be more caveat to put it on the ballot now rather than wait to see what's going to happen and then be in a dire situation in 2 years?
Well, we're in need of the funding now. So I think we're coming to you because we're saying we've identified that we need the 42 cents at minimum to continue to operate and expand and enhance and provide service. And we've chosen to go this route because it is something that you have the power to.
But for the last 2 years, the county's been subsidizing it through the general fund to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
So we could theoretically continue that, right?
Well, we could, however, there are so many enhancements that are just going to continuously increase costs. And, for example, there are translation services via text available. We have a very diverse county, especially the city of Sterling Heights, that we could take advantage of. Comtech alone took over 560 text messages last year. Our hard of hearing community, those are really important enhancements that cost money, that we need money for now, that we don't have, and that would really enhance our service. There's a heightened awareness on school security right now. We're consistently integrating with more school cameras, and that means more technology on the receiving end and more IT personnel to help support that. We're in talks with school districts about how we're going to potentially monitor alarms that they may be installing in their school districts specific to active shooter or mass casualty incidents. And so there is such an emphasis on emerging technology from all of our partners that we service that require us to have the capability and technology and staff to support those. And so if we don't have a funding source for that, the contribution from the general funds it's only going to increase.
Okay. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have Commissioner Vance, we have Commissioner Kraft. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's fair. I promised him I wouldn't speak today, but here we are. I went back and dug out. Vicki, go ahead.
Sorry,
Nope,
just
go
point
ahead.
of clarification for the.
Excuse me, you are?
Vicki Wolber, Deputy County Exec. I was here twice before.
Thank you, Ms. Wolber.
Now
Go
you have
ahead.
Angela, who's way better than I am at this. Just a point of clarification for like the 12.6 million general fund, that's not our money. That's not funded through the county. So just want to make sure that you do clearly understand that the 8 other PSAPs have their own local funding source and their local general fund. So when we talk about any funding, coming through in the general fund, that's not ours. So they have their own, obviously they do the same thing as we do every budget year. They go before their respective boards, ask for funding. But because we have to do this collectively as a county per the law, that's why we come before.
What's our number then, Vicki?
It's about 5.6, about 5.6 million.
5.6, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you,
That's
Commissioner.
okay. Thank
Commissioner
you.
Kraft, go ahead.
Angela, thank you for the presentation, and Vicky for, I know this is 3 years in the works now. It almost feels like Groundhog Day a little bit for some of us here. But I had a couple questions comparing what was presented back in 2019 to now,
Okay.
specifically for the sheriff's office.
Okay.
In our packet, it said that there was going to be one new IT position. In the previous packet, it was 9 new positions. Is it for this time just the one new IT position? You're not asking us for all these other positions?
Correct, just the one position.
Okay. That makes a world of difference. That was one of my hang-ups last time, was the amount of staff and the fringe benefits and everything that comes along with it. Another thing I have from last time is a little bit of a breakdown. We broke down what it would be if the surcharge was 19 cents or if it were 25 cents and 42, and after bouncing a bunch of numbers around, it came out to where, 25 cents could have worked, where we could have kind of managed that amount of money to get the mission accomplished. Is that the case now with costs rising and everything, or is 42 cents that number? I have a problem with the 42-cent number because you go 1 cent higher, we got to take it to the people.
Right.
So we're bumping up to that boundary again, and that's where I keep getting stuck. So I'm asking if 42 cents is the magic number. I know more is always better, but could it be less?
We need the 42 cents.
Okay.
Yeah, we have identified in our conversations that this is what we need to make sure that we can implement the technologies, sustain our operations, and without that, we're going to still need to come back for additional funding sources in some way or another, that this is truly what we need to operate.
Okay. I apologize for putting you on the
No,
spot
it's
like
okay.
that, but thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hall, I'm going to pass on you until the second round. I'm going to go to Commissioner Van Sickle, please.
Thank you, Chair. The 42 cents being right at the limit is a little suspicious, but having said that, I'm in favor of the sunset because that way it forces us to relook at it, and if we really do need 46 or 48 or 50 or whatever, it forces us to go out and get it instead of just rolling along at the 42 cents and cobbling what you're doing, crippling, if you will, what you're doing at a lower amount. So I think possibly funding it at a higher level is a good thing. On a second thought, can we spend, I don't know, I'll ask my fellow commissioners, can we spend federal money on this, the CARES Act money or something that we're getting?
Yes. Chair Brown, can you answer that question?
Yes, if we choose to. It's infrastructure like anything else we spend money on.
Thank you.
We had this confusion last time. If we use our money or our CARES money or whatever, it still leaves all those others hanging out there because they don't get that funding. There was a lot of confusion last time. If we put money in the budget, it would only go to Comtech, not to all these others, and it's really important that people understand those working parts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Van Sickle?
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Song?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the language access expansion. I think that's really important. My question is regarding the live streaming and the recording. You mentioned like that being one of the capabilities, but I know with social media, Twitter, I mean, there are a lot of free open source applications that provide the same type of service, streaming and live recording like you're suggesting. So have you guys looked into open source applications to kind of supplement
We have
what
it
you're doing?
for several reasons. So there's not an industry standard written for that, but also there's no security. With social media platforms, there's also not the ability for us to control what we can record, how long we can retain that information. If and when we're able to start receiving video, text messages, and live streaming, there would have to be some type of retention on that because that would be FOIA-able information, much like a 911 call. So it would have to be a stream, a data stream that would be secure, and that we would have the ability to maintain that data for a duration of time.
Okay, and then my second question is regarding the 42 cents for per device. What about those that have prepaid phones? Because I know a lot of senior citizens who are on a, fixed income where they don't necessarily have those contracts with phones, but have you looked at, the majority of the population who are actually utilizing your services compared to the people who will actually be paying for that?
So I don't have any data representing how many citizens in Macomb County have prepaid phones, but prepaid phones are not a part of the local surcharge. They're only a part of the state surcharge. So anyone who purchases a prepaid phone after March 1st of this year, 6% of that sale gets remitted to the state 911 office, and that's included in the revenue we get from the state distribution. Prior to March 1st, it was 5%. But so prepaid customers would not have this additional
They would
42
still
cents.
receive the same service, though, like if
Absolutely.
they called and they were in Macomb County, they would still get rerouted to your phones?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair Brown.
Thank you. Last time, I was a critic of this tax because I had talked to many supervisors, several supervisors anyway, that said they were going to take that money and were going to supplant the money they were using now. And they just looked at it as a windfall from the county, and they viewed it as a gift, and that they didn't have to spend it on the equipment they were told. Now today, I'm hearing, and I'm glad to hear it, and you're citing the actual law, that money will be audited, and that it will be spent for its intended purpose, and not be a shell game as so many politics can be sometimes. They'll tax you here and then switch it here, and really it's a shell game. But what you've told me today was new. Maybe it was included last time and I didn't hear it, but I didn't hear that last time. I didn't hear the emphasis on that portion of it, which is significant. It changes my perspective a lot on this, because if it's going to support our men and women in blue, then I'm supportive of it, and all of our people who use the services. So it's a big difference. Our contact center, as commissioners have alluded to, has been reported to be the state of the art, because we have the revenue here to make sure that we've got the best equipment on board. So much so that big communities like Sterling Heights and Clinton Township have come on board, and a handful of smaller communities. Yet there are communities out there that, you used the example of my community, Romeo, that's only going to get $5,000. That small community ought to be rolling into Comtech to save not only their budget, but the taxpayers' money, because under the Comtech umbrella, they can be assured that they're going to get state-of-the-art protection, because this county board of commissioners is going to make sure it's funded properly so that they've got all the equipment they need and not have to go on a shoestring. Same for Armada and same for Richmond. Small communities ought to be thrown in with us rather than trying to do it themselves more expensively because of scale. Now, that's a separate question for them and their boards, but I want to make sure that our Comtech continues to get the money that it needs. There's a question about how we fund it, and we could certainly go this way with a tax, but it's a lot different, though, today, knowing that money is going to be spent on what it's intended for and not be supplanted by someone else for some other purpose. And that's a significant question in my mind, and makes a big difference to me. And I'm going to back the blue and support this, and because it's necessary and it's needed, because it protects. We're not going to defend, because essentially not investing in our departments is essentially defunding them, right? If we're operating with less than we need to protect, to keep safe our law enforcement officers and firefighters, men and women, as well as the public, we ought to do that. How best to do it's open for debate, and I respect that. But I'm going to support moving this to full board. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. I have Commissioner Hahn, the second round.
Thank you, Chair. I think our chairman meant support the blue and brown, because we know
Okay.
there's, it's all the same until you guys play hockey or baseball with each other, then not so much. I did want to go back and thank Vicki for her statement that it's just not Comtech we're talking about here. When you talk about Cerisa with the surrounding communities, They're talking about not being able to afford what they're currently doing, let alone maintaining it. They're talking about not being able to afford it. So they're looking at diverting those services to Comtech, which is going to increase the amount of effort that Comtech currently has dramatically. And the communities are talking about how to pay for that, how to fund that. Where can they fight? We always talk about local control. Well, local control here on this issue is us. And none of us want to see a tax increase. I don't want any mistaken headlines that I'm supporting a tax increase. I'm supporting public safety. That's the difference. And to my colleague from Lansing over there, he is correct. I did learn that sunset clause up in Lansing, but guess who taught it to me? Thank you.
Oh, really? Thank you, Commissioner. Any other speakers? Any other commissioners want to speak on this? Well, right now we have a motion and an amendment to the motion with the sunset clause. And if there's no other speakers?
Mr. Chair, can someone restate the actual motion?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Matusek. Would you, Commissioner Hall, restate your motion, please?
Thank you. It's a
Your amendment.
resolution to authorize monthly E911 surcharge of 42 cents per month per device with a 2-year sunset clause ending 2024, at which time after that it will be placed on the ballot.
Thank you, Commissioner. Having said that, Commissioners, let's vote.
Motion passes 9-4. Commissioners Kraft, Farrington, Sabatini, and Wallace voting no.
Thank you, Commissioners. Gentlemen, thank you for your showing up, for one, and law enforcement and first responders. We do appreciate it. You're free to leave now while or you want to stay for the rest of our meeting if you like. I know you have more important things to do. Again, Miss Elsie, you did a tremendous presentation. We've had discussions, her and I, in the past before this was brought to us. The same with Miss Wahlberg. We've had some discussions. Of course, Sheriff Wickersham wussed on us. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but that's all right.
You guys all have a great day, okay?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it so much. Okay, let's move on. Oh, I'm sorry. You did say that past 9. I'm sorry. One more? 9-4. Thank you. Let's go to item 7, which is public participation. This is an opportunity for the public to participate, for those who wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any issue. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to participate in public participation? Please come forward. You have 3 minutes, sir. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Board of Commissioners. My name is Eddie Kabasinski. Warren City Councilman representing District 5, South Central Warren area. I have 2 items I wanted to address the board on. Number 1 is our civil defense and our emergency preparedness, not only in the city of Warren, but the county of Macomb. Recently, Vladimir Putin has made overtures that he would take retribution against Western countries that interfered with what is going on in Ukraine right now. Warren having the TACOM facility, which has to do with our tank and artillery development and our transportation forces in the U.S. Army. Also, it being the tech center for GM, which is basically the brains of General Motors, and also having a large Chrysler plant on Mound Road. I believe that's a stamping plant. These are key critical businesses and infrastructure in the city of Warren, and it would be a critical target for Putin to select. Not only that, but in the larger Macomb area, we have Selfridge, which everybody knows here during 9/11, Selfridge was the TVT target package for covering the United States infrastructure here against any future attacks that were happening on 9/11. we dispatched our jets out of Selfridge that responded to the attack area in New York. And also, we also have the international border with Canada and also the Renaissance Center. So I am concerned about a nuclear attack, a ballistic missile attack that could happen here in Macomb County with those targets and also the greater southeastern Michigan area. So I wanted to bring those concerns to your attention. Also, I'm also concerned about the high level of gas prices I've noticed in the city of Warren and in the greater Macomb County area. I noticed that in 2003, when we had the electrical shutdown, the blackout happened, there was one station in particular at 12 Mile and Shaner, Marathon Station, that had $5 gallon gas. I've noticed significant high gas prices at the beginning of this week, $4.79, $4.97, and then most recently at a Boston Pacific station that was on Mountain Road just north of 696 that charged $5.59 a gallon. My concern is, I understand that the pricing is done within a 1 mile radius of the station and they try to keep competitive, but I am concerned that our certain station owners that are price gouging and taking advantage of the situation. So I wanted to bring these concerns to the board's attention. It is something I am concerned with. I don't know if there's anything that we can do on the county level about these situations, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kapuscinski. Anybody else who would like to speak? Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Fred Neenstead. I'm from Clinton Township.
I'm sorry, your name again?
Fred Neenstead, Clinton Township.
Thank you.
I was intrigued by the presentation by Angela. If I'm wrong in my understanding, I have really no more understanding of what's going on than what I heard from her. But the 9/11 system is being upgraded from basically a one-dimensional type thing with voice data and positional data and such to something that's a higher level of complexity that would involve video data, multi-source video data on the same event. I have some experience with my employment of watching a computer screen for long lengths of time. I'm sure many people have this experience. The fatigue is tremendous. The stress to focus on single points that are moving on the screen multidimensionally can be tremendous. The amount of hours that a person can do this continually is limited. Please consider the stress to the employees of the system as they try to grapple with the increase in the level of complexity. I cannot stress enough the requirement to give people time off during their shift. I mean, literally sleeping on the job. You have to be able to recharge if you want to have 100% efficiency in looking at the smallest detail on the screen. It may be moving and may not be obvious when first looking at it by contrast. A screen is a single dimension. You're looking at a three-dimensional environment, and it's perhaps shown in 4 different directions from the same focal point. You can't process that information at the same time and get it right 100%. It takes a lot more to make the right choice. So training, it has to be expanded. You really should consider a dedicated resource. I don't know how that can be done. I have no experience with that sort of thing, but put a task force towards it. I think it's well spent time by yourselves to know fully what's in your immediate future by upgrading this level of complexity. I'm sure many people have input that have expertise on that sort of thing. At least an opportunity for someone to provide input, expert input on exactly what the experience is. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nisak. Anybody else would like to speak? Anybody from the public would like to speak? Mr. Spiegel, you all right there? I'm just checking on you. Seeing no other speakers, I'm going to close that part of public participation, and I'm going to go to, where am I going to go to? I know where I've been told to go to. Commissioners' comments. Any commissioners like to comment? Let's see if I can pull that up now. Why don't you give me a hand signal, guys, if you want to talk. Chair Brown.
Thank you. Yesterday, I was at the Ukrainian Cultural Center, supporting a effort to rally and bring attention to the Ukraine, and particularly the local efforts going on to gather and muster resources. There's a call out for supplies and so forth to be sent over there, and the Ukrainian Cultural Center is taking them and packaging them and sending them to a warehouse in Hamtramck, where they're going to be going on planes, Polish airplanes, aircraft over to Poland. And I want to let you know that I've talked to all three of the major hospital systems in the county, and they are packaging materials to send over to Ukraine, particularly for the military packs for them in the fields and so forth. So our three hospital systems are stepping up and doing various things to help us support the effort, and I thought that was a good thing, and I let them know that. So thank you, and letting you know that.
I agree, that is a good thing. Any other commissioners who wish to speak? You signed in late, I can't acknowledge you. Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. I saw in a newspaper that I get there, State Rep Kevin Hertel was helped pass what's called Wyatt's Law. It's about a young boy, I think he's 9 now, that his mother had been working with this situation. I think he was staying when he was with the one parent, the other parent. For 3 years, she was trying to get help, and finally was able to get this through the legislation. He was being abused by the caretaker when he was with the other parent, and nobody knew until they figured it out. So, we just have to, I keep saying, we have to put our children first, and we have to be watchful. We all know this, and it's just sad. It's a sad time for our children. I mean, it's probably always been a problem and minuscule, but we just have to be watchful for situations that may seem a little peculiar, and speak up and help wherever we can. But at least this is helpful in going forward to the Senate, and I'm glad that the boy is getting help and doing well, I think, according to this article, and I'm glad that there was a place for her to go. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner. Seeing no other commissioners?
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Moved and supported. Please vote. Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry for such a long meeting.